Okay, so today I'm going to do something similar to what I did last time on my secondary session, which I kind of have opened it up to like where I can just do kind of anything random without any sort of series to it. I was trying to do What Would You Do / Shark Tank. I was going to kind of alternate between those on the secondary slot itself, but whatever. We can watch moments from them or whatever. Doesn't mean you have to watch the whole series, although I kind of wanted to. And I mainly wanted to watch like the earlier seasons of What Would You Do, but you can't find them anywhere. So anyway, last time I did like a little sports segment where I talked about basketball and I made a prediction, and what a great introduction to that format because, you know, I've rarely talked about sports, but I do know a lot about it, or at least I know a lot about basketball, and it's kind of good, ripe for debate, and nobody's feelings get hurt too hard the way that you do in more serious debate topics, but, you know, like politics or something. But the whole idea is that I had made a prediction that the Wolves being down 0-2 would come back and win in 7. I said like they'd win 3, then lose 1, and then win game 7. And so that was right before game 3. And so it doesn't seem that crazy because you saw in the previous series, you know, the Nuggets were down 0-2, but then they come back to at least force a game 7, even though they lose. So it's not as crazy as you think to be down 0-2, but I was horribly wrong. So what a great first prediction to make. But I'm still going to stick with it, so I would have to stick with the fact that not only are they going to win in 7 games, but they're going to be the first ever to come back from 0-3. And also, I have to say that Uncle Drew, and I guess I was right about this for at least one game, that it will break his streak of like 14 games that everybody kept talking about, 14 elimination games that he's won and lost 0. So every time he's up 3, anything on somebody, he always wins and closes it out, which is a great stat to have. I mean, I would imagine he still has the record. Like, who has a better record than, 14-1 or whatever? But I guess I'm predicting it's going to get a lot worse. So, realistically, they're probably not going to win, but at least they'll force a game 7, and then maybe it'll be like Boston last year. But yeah, all 4 games have been close. So if there ever was a standard where that could happen, but you would need something crazy to happen, like Mike Conley's going to have 40 or whatever. But no, the main issue with this series has been, and again, give Dallas credit, I never took them that seriously. I mean, they are only the 5th seed. I was, saying the Clippers, if Kawhi was healthy, would have won it all. That was actually my pick, so you could say whatever, like, oh, you're salty about that, but I'm really not. In fact, I was more unimpressed by them because they played without Kawhi, or when they had Kawhi, he had like 7 points or something in the one game. So it's like they should have easily beaten the Clippers. They took 6 games and they lost the first one in a blowout. So that made me sort of not sold on the Mavericks from that point, right, where I wasn't taking them too seriously. But when they beat OKC, okay, give them credit. And when they beat, or when they're about to beat the Wolves now, I have to give them credit. But in a way, I'm not taking anything away. Luka's great. And what's ironic about that is, like, Luka, to me, I mean, I've watched him in past years, like, he's played relatively at the same level. He's been great in other series, too, but it's just not good enough to win. Like, those series against the Warriors, you kind of forget about that. He played great, but it didn't matter. They lost in, 5 games? The year that the Warriors won the title, obviously, without Kevin Durant in 22. That's so dumb. It's like, yeah, Luka was great then, too. Luka Magic, but it doesn't matter. That was my expectation. So even Kyrie, I know is great. Luka, I know is great, but I still didn't think it would be enough. And I still am not sure, but whatever. I'm going to somehow say that the Wolves will still win, even though I know that's stupid and this is a bad first prediction, but whatever. And the one prediction that's come very much to fruition with Jaylen Brown winning the conference finals MVP for the East is that I always said Jaylen Brown is better than Jason Tatum. I always say, like, for 6 years I've said it. And I said that if they're going to win, he's going to have to take the initiative. Because Jason Tatum can be like your Scottie Pippen type guy, where he's like, he's a great passer, great rebounder, great defender. He's going to give you 20 a night. But Jaylen Brown should be your assassin, leading scorer. He should be the killer on offense, your best player, best offensive player at least. Like, Tatum can be more well-rounded. So he can bring the ball up, he can do some good passes, he can defend. All these things are valuable, but don't try to glorify him too much where he's your best player and he has to be your leading scorer too. That's just too much responsibility. Although I guess I said something similar about both Luka and Jokic, but in a different way, because they didn't have somebody like Jaylen Brown necessarily. Like Jamal Murray is definitely not close to that. People say he's won a title, but there's still a big difference. I mean, Jaylen Brown is practically my favorite player, just besides Devin Booker. And I know people make fun of both for failures that they've had, but, they're still amazing players. I love their style of play. It's very entertaining to watch. They're very skilled offensively, like two of the most skilled offensive players ever. And we get to watch them, and it's like we kind of take it for granted, obviously because they haven't won titles and stuff. I mean, at least they've both been to the finals, but no, that shows you Boston really should have won against the Warriors, because what did the Warriors have left in the tank? It was their last leg. They had to rely on Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins, which, again, they played well, but you know what I mean? Like, the Warriors had all the excuses that, their run is basically over, but they still won. And the Celtics are, going to be back here again and again, so that was a real disappointment. The Celtics should have won that one, even though I'm, good for Steph and good for the Warriors to get one last one, and my prediction there is going to be wrong because I predicted that they would win two more after Kevin Durant, but obviously I would give up on that one. I'm just wrong. They're not going to win another one, but whatever. They did win the one at least, and a lot of people weren't on that bandwagon and didn't think it would happen at the time, but now it's easy to say, well, of course they won. Like, they won more so because of Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins, obviously, than Draymond and Clay were kind of declining, right? Steph was still Steph. So it's kind of like, one thing I said about Draymond is he's so overrated in this sense that, like, he's never been the third best player on a championship team, arguably, because in 2015, who stepped up? So you have Steph and Clay, but then you had Andre Iguodala step up, and he won the MVP, even though he didn't deserve it over Steph, whatever, right? The point is, Andre stepped up, and so Draymond was like the fourth best player, and then with Kevin Durant, you got Steph, Clay, and KD, and then Draymond, and then even when he had the chance again in 2022, then you had Steph and Clay and Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole somewhere between them, and so one of those two, and then, Draymond's after that. So realistically, he's never been the third best player even. Yes, he plays good defense at times. Yes, he makes some good passes at times, but he's way overrated because every time you've won, it hasn't been like, oh my goodness, Draymond was the reason you won. The closest he came to that was actually in 2016 because the Steph struggled so much in that series. He had a horrible series that Draymond might have been the MVP, and he had a great Game 7 where he hit like 5 for 7 threes or some crazy shit like that. Similar to LeBron in like 2013 against the Spurs, where they're practically giving him that shot and he hits like 5 out of 7 or something like that too. But no, I'm actually going to watch like a couple first take things, and I'll just have to announce each one for the timestamp, even for my own benefit. But like they're only like 10, 12 minutes long or whatever. So I'll look at some of these clown takes that people have, but yeah, give the Mavs credit. And I'd be in this uncomfortable position of picking the Mavs over the Celtics in the finals just because I haven't been sold on the Celtics because psychologically, even though, again, I love Jaylen Brown, I still don't buy into it, mainly because of coaching. If you let Jaylen Brown cook and let him do his thing, right, he has to be the best player. So I said that very specifically. If the Celtics win, it's going to be Jaylen Brown MVP. He will not win with Jason Tatum, not because, he's not a good player, but it's a higher level point than that. Like, he shouldn't be, you know what I mean? It shouldn't be like that. Jaylen Brown should be the best player. He'll be the finals MVP, and Jason Tatum can still be a very valuable asset, but he's not going to be the guy. You can't try to put all that responsibility on him. So yeah, I said, like, okay, Jokic, yes, he can lead you in assists, but should he really be doing that? Like, you got Jamal Murray, you got other people, so it's like giving one guy too much responsibility, which can work sometimes, but it's sometimes a bad model. So the same thing with Luka. Luka shouldn't be necessarily your point guard. He can be a scorer, shooter, all these kind of things, but when you ask him to do everything, he has to score, he has to shoot, he has to defend, he has to rebound, he has to pass. Like, yes, he can do those things, although defend I'd question a little bit, but he can do all those things, but that doesn't mean he should have to. You should pick a few categories that you're best at. Like with, people say that with Michael and Scottie Pippen, like, Scottie was often guarding the other team's best player. But it's not that Michael couldn't do it, it's that you have to pick your poison. Like, Scottie Pippen couldn't average 30 to 40 points a game on 50+% shooting, but Michael could. So let Michael do that and let Scottie defend the best player because he can do that, right? So you're letting them play to their strengths. Michael could have also gotten 7, 8, 10 assists a game, but Scottie can do that. So let Scottie do what he can do, and let Michael do what only he can do, which is score, 41 on 50% shooting in the finals against the Suns or whatever, other crazy stat lines, 33, 36, all these kind of things. So, you have to make that concession. So it's not always about, just because you can do something doesn't mean you have to. Like, you have to let somebody do everything. That's the problem with LeBron too. Sometimes people fall in love with that. Yes, he can lead your team in every statistical category, but if you design a team properly, he shouldn't be doing that. He doesn't need to be doing every little thing, because you're just overworking him and relying on him too much. Right, so the best composed teams are always going to play to their strengths. Right, what is LeBron absolutely best at? You know, it might be scoring, it might be passing. You can have somebody else take care of the rebounding. You can have somebody else take care of other things, just defense and stuff. Not that he can't do them. Certainly in his prime, he could do them. So yeah, I would predict that they'll come back and at least force a Game 7 and win. Again, Boston won that. Jaylen Brown, so they're waiting in the wings for the finals. So yeah, what most recently happened is Dallas beat the thing. Dallas lost Game 4, so now they're down 3-1. Obviously the Wolves, so now we'll see what this video is. So it's called Mavs Bad Game or Bad Sign. Stephen A. can't rule out Wolves something. Right, so we're going to start in a second here, and it's like, again, the realistic narrative should be just give the Mavs credit. The series is over. You know, the Mavs are going to win the title, or at least, you know, win the West. That would be the expectation, but, and I said it from just watching their games, like, Luka and Kyrie have got to be two of the most frustrating people to defend, because they're those type of players. Like, you can defend it perfectly, and they'll still, score a lot. Like, it doesn't matter. They make those kind of bullshit shots. Like, even at the end of Game 5, Luka makes this and people are complaining it wasn't a foul. But forget about the foul. He made a three that was, completely bullshit, right? Like, that kind of three is bogus. That's a much harder, more impressive shot than the one he made, against Rudy Gobert, right? But obviously it wasn't a game winner, but he gets a 4-point play, so whatever. There's a lot of incentives and conspiracies, a magnet on the rim to pull the ball in when they want it to go in, or to stop it when it, people have been saying that, or, sports betting have ruined sports, which I guess I can agree with that a little bit. I just don't like to hear about it so much and whatever, and then it creates incentives. I get all that. And then the other side is, refereeing always has some element of that where, they're trying to extend the series as long as possible. So I say that with the 2016 finals, they weren't trying to make the Cavs win the series, right? I don't think they cared about that. They were just trying to force it to extend the series a little bit, to a Game 6, suspend Draymond, right? So they can't control it 100%, but they have incentives and they definitely push it in a certain direction. There's no question about it. And so what we have to do at this stage is we have to basically decide on the fact of whatever. I could watch a couple of these, so I'll basically insert myself in and correct some of the fallacies that they have. And I could watch old debates and stuff too, but what is a hot topic that's sort of trending? Just people were comparing Anthony Edwards. I wasn't buying into that hype, right? I was more so buying into the Wolves only because I had picked Denver to beat them, and I was so shocked that they didn't, and the manner in which they lost. So I would have rather said, okay, it wasn't that Denver was overconfident and they just choked it, but it was that Minnesota's really just not good. But now they disappoint me again. I'm trying to give you credit, but now you don't deserve it because you go down 0-3 and every game is close. So what I'm going to blame is the coaching. I think the coaching is terrible because you have Rudy Clown Gobert, who I've always made fun of. It's you're missing the point, right? I thought that if you had Rudy and Cat out there, what would happen is it would stifle the Mavs inside, so they wouldn't be able to score anything inside because they don't have a Jokic or anybody like that, and even he was struggling. So I thought, okay, Rudy and Cat would stop them from scoring in the paint, and then they'd be bombing away from three, and eventually they'll start missing, and that would be why Dallas would struggle. But instead, they keep getting switches, and they keep cooking Rudy anyway, right, whether it be in the paint or not. And so now what you have to decide after at least Game 2 as a coach is stop playing him, keep him on the bench, and then decide, okay, we got to play small, we got to match them, right? Somehow they're cooking us regardless. The one asset of a player like Rudy is, okay, he's going to stop you from scoring in the paint. But if you're letting these little guards like Kyrie and Luka do it, then there's nothing you can do. What's the point, right? So you're not acknowledging the matchup difference. Okay, you had Jokic, so it's worth it to have these two. Although even then, he's very capable of hitting perimeter shots, but just something about it doesn't make sense. But no, the coaching is terrible because, again, Anthony Edwards had a couple bad games. Cat's having some all-time bad games. I get it. But you got to put, that's just Cat's own. These two adjustments should have been made before. After game 2, Cat should realize, okay, I'm shooting bad from the paint, from the perimeter. So now I'm going to start trying to score inside. Obviously, you got to balance it out. Even if you are hitting outside shots, you still have to balance it. So that's certainly a criticism, but he should have addressed it sooner. And then the other thing is just coaching. You have to play small. You have to understand how they're beating you. You don't wait till game 4 and you're like, I'm going to get swept. And now we're celebrating this. So, yes, I'm still saying they'll force a game 7, but the reality is the take should be kind of lukewarm that, give the Mavs credit. The Wolves suck. They're done. They're going to lose. It's all focused on that. But it seems like they're going to be talking more about the Wolves than they are talking about the, how they were hyping up Anthony Edwards so much, comparing him to Michael Jordan, all this kind of stuff. You don't need to do that. He's good. They've had a good postseason run, but I'm very disappointed, and there's no real excuse because, again, every game is close, so it's not about, you're just not good enough. It's about the fact that you just can't close games, so that's just a psychological and adjustment type of thing, whether it be because, coaching and whatever. Okay, so we're going to start. So this video is called Mavs Bad Game or Bad Sign. So we're starting in 3, 2, 1. No, didn't work. It always does that. The first time I play something, it will take a second to stutter and buffer. So we're starting in 3, 2, 1. What's the biggest reason? So they're giving credit to Cat, who barely even deserves it. You're just doing what you should have done. Now, this whole best shooting big man thing, he is one of the best shooting bigs ever, right? Just because one bad series doesn't mean that you're not. Dirk had a terrible series in 2006 in the finals, and he had a terrible series against the We Believe Warriors. So, it doesn't mean that you're not a great shooter. They were ranked 22nd, but they're supposed to have Michael Jordan and Anthony Edwards, which, again, I'm not making that comparison, but Kyrie had only 16 points. Luka was still cooking them, though. He had 30 plus. See, now you come up, why is he saying Luka Doncic? Chick. He's not saying chit, he's saying chit. I don't know how. Yeah, now they're bringing up the 14-0 stat. But now you're going to bet against him like I am and say he's going to lose in 3 games. 3 games in a row. Obviously it's not going to happen, but no, don't give the Minnesota too much credit. You're down 0-3. I'm not impressed at all. Even those games were so close. Why are the odds stacked against them? You just beat the defending champ. You're so wrong. Why are you down 0-3 in 3 close games? But so Cat does what he's supposed to have done from the first place. I'm not that impressed. So I'm not giving him a pat on the back. You shouldn't be down 0-3. So this guy's Mad Dog or somebody. I haven't seen him too much. Oh, wow, give them so much credit. It could be an 8 seed against a 1 seed, and they'll still win it. They'll still try to stop getting swept. I mean, Kyrie's gonna fucking show some discipline. He's gonna make me eat my words too. How dare I bet against Uncle Drew in a closeout game? Who the fuck do I think I'm betting against? Why are they saying Doncic? Stephen A said that too. Doncic. It's Doncic, dude. They didn't do anything impressive. They just survived. Like, what? Now we have an ad, so this is what fucks up the timestamp. I don't know what to tell you with that. Like, what am I supposed to do now? That's so fucking stupid. Because you might see a different ad, you might not see an ad. So I'll try to... Whatever, I'll just keep going. But yeah, they're giving the Wolves too much credit, so people would be triggered by this. Like, how about you give Dallas credit? You know, you don't deserve credit for you're down 0-3 and you win one game. Whoop-de-doo. Let's pat you on the back. Like, what the fuck? Ryan Windhorse almost doing some unintentional ASMR type stuff here. But see, again, it's just an adjustment. It's not like, oh, whoop-de-doo, what else can you do? You should have done that after game fucking 2. Oh, wait till game 4, just so you don't get swept. Why not? 13 times isn't that big of a deal. Wasn't he the one who did the 3-point foul, or that was some other one? There's been a lot of 3-point shot fouls in the series. Oh, the coach threw it all on the court last night, but he waited too goddamn long. You don't get paid for game 4, you get paid for the whole series. Like, you should have done all this stuff in game 2. After game 2, you should have made some major adjustment. They played like a little bit smaller, but I still think Rudy was out there. It was a bad game for the Mavs. Like, Luka was still pretty damn good. I don't know why he keeps saying that. This guy's like a lot older than he looks, I think, because he always talks about the old school Celtics. Jokic, yeah, what about Kawhi? If Kawhi wasn't hurt, you'd be showing him some respect. He's the first best player in the NBA, but injuries are God's way of making it fair for everyone else. Go Leonard. My little joke quote that I kept using. Jokic and Luka, so a little European flair. Giannis is better than both because he actually plays defense, but he's just injured, so let's hold it. Number 1 is Kawhi, number 2 is Giannis. Then we can talk about, I don't care about the MVP, like, if Giannis could actually play the fucking game in the playoffs. They're all saying their name wrong, unless I've been wrong the whole time. Doncic. It's not even just Larry Bird, like, you know, oh, they're clutch or something. They have, like, similar body builds. They have similar, you know, slow speed, unathletic. Now, look at Stephen A. is going to hedge his bets. He's going to say, oh, it's just a bad game, but the Wolves will still force Game 7. He'd be almost as big a clown as me. Oh, I guess he was 7-21, but he still played well. If you go up 3-0, you're entitled to have a bad game or two, and it's fine. You can get away with it, right? But now Minnesota can't have one bad game. So what if Cat is off a little more, and then, what's going to happen? Then you're screwed. Anthony Edwards has one bad game. That's why it's so hard. That's why even though Boston forced Game 7, then they get blown out. That was actually hilarious, too. The Game 7 last year between Boston and Miami. So the timestamp might be fucked up, but I don't even care. Just whatever. I'm not even acknowledging when the ad ended or whatever, but Derek Lively got injured, so people will give credit to Cat injured him with respect to Game 3, right? So that's why they won Game 4, even though they didn't win Game 3 because of it. But no, I don't respect the Wolves for falling down 0-3, so I don't buy into all this hype and credit that you're giving them. They got the pom-poms out for fucking Minnesota winning one game instead of the other way, give the Mavs some credit, even though I was denying them that too. But see, teams do win 4 straight. That's the thing that's weird about it. Okay, the Bucks were down 0-2 to the Suns, and then they win 4 straight. So just pretend they were 0-3, right? It would be the same thing if they had won 4 straight. It just hasn't happened. Why is that so different? They lost 4 in a row, right? They just happened to not be down 0-3 instead of 0-2. Yeah, what kind of point was that? Celtics went home, but then they still lost in Game 7. I wish the ads were at least always the same or always the same timestamp. And then they lost 3 in a row, though, so what does that mean? And then they win 2 in a row. But that, again, that's more just the Nuggets being overrated, I guess, even by me. But you can't win them all, even though, again, I am saying that. One time you'll be right. They just already did the impossible. That's the best argument, is just that have the confidence to say it, though. I will say it. They're going to do it. They're going to do it because they did the impossible and broke Kyrie Irving's perfect streak of 14 games in a row, right? Closeout games. So if they broke Kyrie's impossible unbroken streak, then who's to rule out the possibility that, obviously, they could break that streak of 4 in a row, too. Doncic, how many fucking times? Doncic counter 1 million. That's all it would take. Or what would really happen is it would be kind of an injury. Okay, let's say, that happened with Derrick Rose, that the 8 seed Sixers beat the Bulls. They didn't win they weren't down 0-3 and they didn't win like that, but it could happen. Your best player gets injured and now you come back from an 0-3. So it's not because of... What year was that? Red Sox beat the Yankees, apparently. I wonder if that was in the World Championship too. That would be fucking sick. I guess if I knew the regions, I guess it couldn't be, right? Because that would be some sort of regional overlap. That must be a conference game. Red Sox, Boston Red Sox, and Yankees, they're kind of too close together, but whatever. However baseball works, it's just obviously it's happened there, I guess, as he's saying. So yeah, those 2 ads are what kind of fucked it up. Play an ad at the beginning and the end, but don't do it like that, man. Like, how am I even supposed to know now? There'll be no way for me to know. I should have been better about it, whatever. I should have been better about, like, acknowledging it as it happened. Now we could watch some other random thing. We could watch some clip from inside the NBA, which might be getting defunct soon, which is unfortunate. I always used to watch, like, highlights and clips and funny moments from there. You know, Chuck talking about San Antonio women. There's a lot of great things in there. Just how unfiltered and crazy and chaotic they can be. Yeah, that wasn't a particularly noteworthy thing, and they're kind of hedging their bets. Like, I'm saying it decisively. Like, okay, I said the Wolves would win in 7, and I'm sticking with it. They'll win 3 in a row now. I'm not very confident, but I'm saying it. Like, that is my prediction. So, you know, I certainly would not have expected this. I actually thought it would be, like, in 6 at first, so I'll just adjust it to 7 because I have to, right? Or I did that when they were even down 0-2 because I didn't expect them to go down 0-2. I thought that they would still lose one more, right? That just is such a bad start to the series. Although you would think that would have nothing to do with it. You could be down 0-2 like the Bucks and still win 4 in a row because it's like, you know, that'll still be winning in 6. It's just not what I expected. Let's see. It's kind of hard to find stuff or navigate stuff here, but we could watch this and we could watch Undisputed. I haven't seen much Undisputed since Shannon Sharp left. Or I guess I didn't watch much of these anyway. I think people were being too hard on Skip, though. It's like Skip made these guys careers. Like, yes, they're good on their own, but you know, he did a lot for they needed him more than he needed them. He was doing fine. He was on Cold Pizza. He was already established. Like, he'd written books. He was very accomplished. So whether you like him or not, you know, he can be a troll. He can be annoying at times, but I respect him. And, you know, if I'm Stephen A. or Shannon, I don't have a single negative thing to say about him because I respect what he did. I understand what he's about. You know, he did a lot for both of their careers. So just, you know, just let it go. Don't try to talk and gossip, which I'm sure they've done, and say negative things about him. Like, you had a great run, you move on. I always hate these sort of backbiting clowns. You even see this with a lot of show business. Like, people are doing this with Dan Schneider, and I understand. Okay, I'm not defending him. I don't know what he even did. Like, supposedly he's sexualizing young girls and stuff. I get it. And in that case, at least the age issue, you know, you're not entirely mature enough to always handle the situation. But all I'm saying is, if they do something bad, then stop working with them. And you might think, oh, it'll ruin my career, and I feel like I have to. But that's your choice then. Like, I don't respect that. If somebody's really doing something wrong and bad, and you feel uncomfortable, don't come out 10, 20 years later and say, well, you know, this and this happened. No. Just stop working with them. Say, okay, I quit because you're doing this wrong, and then hopefully other people will be informed by that to know. You know, you might think, oh, it'll ruin my career. But fuck you. Like, if they're really doing something that bad, right, don't give me halfway and say, well, it's like, you know, if you really, what they're doing is really bad, then why would you put up with it, right? It's like when people say in an abusive relationship, victim blaming already. It's not your fault that you're being abused, but it is your fault if you continue to be abused after a long period of time. Like, fooled me once, shame on me, shame on you. But if you stay there, like, oh, they abused me, but it's okay, I still love them, oh, they still love me, like, okay, so then you stay with them, and then they do it again. Like, why not? You know, I'm very firm about stuff like that. If somebody does something wrong and bad, just leave. Stop dealing with it. Doesn't matter if it's at work, doesn't matter if it's at school, doesn't matter if it's in a relationship, right? So I have a very short trigger for that. Just have high standards, because the more you put up with stuff like that, it's like, you know what I mean? The more you're enabling it and just almost encouraging it. So again, it's not saying that the person doing those things is excused by this. Obviously they're bad, it goes without saying, but you have to decide, right? Like, what do you really want? And don't allow them to get away with it. Like, really, think about every relationship if they every relationship if they this is the standard in society. If you hit somebody one time, right, let's say abusively, whatever, you immediately break up and that's it, it's over. There is no like, oh, I'll give you another chance, or oh, I'm sorry. If that was the standard, then nobody would ever do it, because they know, like, oh, that's it, right? So why would that happen? Just anecdotally, I guess, from my relationships, like, it never, you know, you could have fights, you could have arguments. I guess I'm maybe a little more laid back where that sort of thing doesn't happen with me as much, but whether it would have been me or them, the fact of the matter is that there was never a scenario where I would have hit them out of anger or physically or anything, right? That never even crossed my mind. And there's never a scenario with them where they would have done that to me. So it doesn't matter. Like, it just never even occurred to me that that would be a thing. Right, and it shouldn't. So again, I wouldn't hit somebody who is even my worst enemy, let alone somebody I'm supposed to love or care about, right? And a lot of people I've been in relationships with, at least notably 2 of them, I'm still friends with, or we kind of usually ended on a nice, positive note. Like, yeah, we get bored. I guess I'm just like that myself, though. Like, I don't really get too invested. I don't really care that much. But you could say that's part of the reason why they end. But I mean, one of them was an open relationship and all this. That's one of the fallacies that triggered me, as people are looking at Destiny and Melina, right? Destiny, the content creator, debate guy. And, oh, he broke up with Melina in an open relationship. Wow. I guess that invalidates open relationships, huh? Because this highly conspicuous celebrity, public one, falls apart. Because no celebrity has ever gotten divorced in a single partner relationship. That never happens, right? It's not like 50+% of them end in divorce. So, you know what I mean? Like, if you use one to discredit all of them, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But people are so closed-minded and reactionary, like, just because it's a highly conspicuous one. But that means if it worked out, that means that they're all perfect. No, it can't just be like, it's an individual, 2 individuals in a relationship. Like, some of them work out, some of them don't. There could be various reasons. Like, it's not an indictment against the form of relationship. But that means anybody who's in a single partner relationship, anytime a celebrity breaks up, wow, I guess that invalidates every single one ever, so let's stop doing them. That's how stupid and narrow the argument is. Again, it doesn't even have to be a defense for those things. Like, okay, you don't have to do that, but it's just, like, too convenient, right, to try to reduce it to just one. So I could try to look at another one here, but I'm not entirely sure. Let me see. It's got to be, like, longer for this to really make sense. Right, it would have to be a longer video, because that one was only like 10 minutes, and of course the ads totally ruin it, so I don't know what, I maybe should get ad block or something for this, or these days they make you sign up for YouTube Premium or something to try to do that. But yeah, this slot is kind of just very open. I can watch whatever I want. So no, I would predict though that Boston would lose to whoever they face in the finals, which makes it seem like bias. But it's really not. It's just like I saw what happened last year. This is a team that lost to an 8 seed, so what are you going to tell me that, whether Porzingis plays or not? I never questioned that they had the talent to win. They had the talent to win last year. They had the talent to win the year before that. Right? They lost to the Warriors, then they lose to the Heat. Like, I don't know. And it's like a high-level standard. People say, well, the Heat were still good. They beat the Bucks. They beat everybody else. But they obviously were able to, it's still an easier matchup than you typically see. So even that kind of explains the Nuggets collapse here. The Nuggets weren't as impressive as they seemed, and I didn't entirely buy into them because, they beat a 7 seed in the conference finals and an 8 seed in the finals. Now you might say, well, you can only beat who you can beat. And I'm fair with that, right? And I even picked them to beat the Wolves, right? Like, out of respect. But it's still an easier path. Like, what would you rather go through? A 7 seed in the Lakers who upset the Grizzlies and and beat the defending champs in the Warriors? Like, obviously that's impressive. So it's not some ordinary 7 seed. And also, for once, actually validating the amount of hype and talk around the Lakers that we have, right? Like, and people accuse that of being rigged and stuff too, but just to somehow favor them. But the point being that it's still an easier path than what you would typically expect, or the Heat always just ruin the East that way. They weren't the 8th seed that year, they were like the 5th seed, but in the bubble they made it to the finals too. They upset the Bucks, they upset everybody. Like, they've ruined a lot of paths for other people. So Jimmy Butler always preys on the weak East in a way that I'm not even going to complain, but one of these times he's actually going to break through and win the title, and that's awesome because they at least put themselves in a position to do that, so I have to respect that, right? You might hold that against him. This is like one of those net negative arguments, like, oh, LeBron has lost X number of times in the finals, right? And some of them are his fault, like, or you should have won, like 2011, especially you should have won. But the fact of the matter is that, you'll say, oh, Jimmy Butler's lost in the finals a couple times, but the fact that he even made it is to his credit, right? Like, you're making it in years that you're not favored to. So if you lost in an earlier round, nobody would say that. You'd be like, okay, the 8th seed lost to the 1st seed. Nobody's surprised by that, right? That's perfectly understandable. Nobody's going to be disappointed. But now you say, oh, look at him coming up short in the finals in a year that he overachieved and upset everybody on the way there. Like, obviously, you're looking at it the wrong way. That's an achievement to lose in the finals as an 8th seed or even as a 5th seed, which I guess now Dallas is itself a 5th seed. But that's, something you expect to happen a lot less with the West. And a lot of that stuff could be explained by injuries too. Like, when the Knicks made it, I think they were the 8th seed because like Patrick Ewing or somebody was out, and then he comes back, and then they help you. So if somebody's injured, that creates a different dynamic where you're only so low seeded because of that, right? If you had your team totally healthy, that wouldn't have happened, basically. So let me see if I can find maybe something to react to, but I should sort of plan this out and have a playlist ready. And the one thing I can't account for are ads. Katie is too sensational to pass up. Stephen A. would trade Randall for Durant. I mean, yeah, why, who would be too high on Randall? Like, Randall's a good player, but I would have never gotten rid of some of the players that the Knicks got rid of, though. I know people say OG Anunoby is good, but it wasn't really worth it. Tatum needs a title. Plus Ant-Man stock. I mean, it's still rising, yes, but none of this stuff really interests me. I got to find, like, some older debate or something. Kendrick Perkins can actually be pretty funny sometimes. Pay attention, that's not baseball. I don't really care about that. I mean, the only sport I have any remote knowledge of is basketball, but I do actually know a lot, especially about the history of it. I would just find it interesting to kind of do research and look stuff up and whatever, like whether I really watch it actively or not, or I tend to not really like watching full games because it's kind of too much. It's just too much time. Right, it takes too long, and usually I don't care. Just watch like the last few minutes or the fourth quarter, or even like in the regular season. Why bother? Just skip and watch the playoffs when it reaches the time, right? So at least now I can understand. Sometimes maybe in the finals I'll do it. That was a pretty epic finals. The Bucks versus the Suns, right? So that was in 21, where Giannis had 50 in the final game, and then obviously 22 is disappointing for the Celtics because I wasn't even rooting for them, but you would think they should have won it because, again, the Warriors haven't done anything since then, so they haven't been remotely competitive at all, so they just fall off the map. Jordan Poole's a clown, even for where he is, like in Washington. Andrew Wiggins is not, living up to the hype, so he's been good with the Warriors overall, obviously, but just, I don't know, it's not enough to think that they should have won the title there. I'm not even going to say, oh, they made it as a fluke, but Boston really doesn't have that mental edge. They'll only win when the deck is absolutely stacked in their favor. Like, now they're going to face a 5th seed in the finals, and they're going to still lose, even with Porzingis, even with all this talent that they have. Like, why should that not be a championship duo, even without Porzingis? Like, Tatum and Brown is a championship duo. That's two of the best players in the game, absolutely, superstar talents. Like, there's no reason why they shouldn't win.